Welcome, IHIPers. In the news today, the last couple of days I've read that Kamala Harris is transferring $25 million down ballot to help in other Democratic races. Meanwhile, Pumps, it seems like Donald Trump is still grifting and skimming off the top of the RNC. And he is doing a lot of interviews where he forgets that he's running against Kamala Harris and continually keeps referring to Biden as his opponent. Let me play you the clip.
I can't imagine New Hampshire voting for him. Anybody in New Hampshire, because they're watching right now, but anybody in New Hampshire that votes for Biden and Kamala.
He is more and more unhinged. And I am shocked that the Republican Party is continuing to put up with this and that so many voters, I mean, over 40%, that's their guy.
It's amazing to me because if it were Biden and he was on there, or Kamala Harris, talking about running against Mitt Romney or going off script as much as he does Nancy Pelosi versus Nikki Haley, these kind of things would never be tolerated. Never. Am I surprised the Republicans are all in? Not really. They've run him 3 times. He attempted a coup. He didn't go to the peaceful transition of power. This guy is a lunatic. They have gotten what they've paid for. The only thing I can say that I've ever agreed with Lindsey Graham on is when he said if the Republican Party nominates him, they will get what they deserve. And I think this election, they will get what they deserve.
I think that, again, we spoke in yesterday's episode about how this has been building. The Republicans have been building up to Trump. And Trump, as all of their ideas realized in one person with a very large megaphone. And the Democrats have got to capitalize on this because it's on full display right now what the Republican agenda is. Trump was asked recently in an interview if he were elected and he received a bill for a nationwide abortion ban, would he veto it? And he refuses to answer. So let me play you that clip.
Federal abortion bill, if it came across your desk. Is that
Well, you
right?
don't need it.
You won't need it, but hypothetically, if it
Well,
did.
I don't want to answer a hypothetical. You don't need it.
So when you look in totality at what Trumpism is, they have written it out in Project 2025. It's wildly unpopular. And because I think a lot of people that aren't news junkies like all of us that are involved in this YouTube video right now, when they get a drift of what's going to happen, they don't want that. And Trump likes to talk about Comrade Kamala. There is nothing more fascist than what Trump and MAGA Republicans want to do. And you can look at who are in the leadership positions in this party. You have Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who is a complete lunatic. Lindsey Graham, who literally drifts like the wind, does not have a spine. Ted Cruz, who is, as we've said multiple times, the worst, most unfuckable person in the United States of America, quite possibly the world. And people like Josh Hawley, and it's just this ongoing onslaught of moron after moron after moron. But the problem is these people are wildly dangerous and they want to take away rights from everybody. But they say, oh, we're all about the Constitution. We're all about freedom. And it is complete horseshit. Trump would sign a nationwide abortion ban without blinking if somebody came in and said, nobody's been able to do this, sir. You're going to be a hero. Everybody wants this. He'd be like, oh, where do I sign? He's so easy to manipulate. That's why the Russians are all over him. The Russians can't penetrate the Democratic Party like this because they're too smart and they figure it out. That's why you've got all of these moronic podcasters, present company excluded, on the right that are basically taking money from Russia to promote Russian propaganda. And it's all coming out. When I read the news story about the Russian propaganda, that didn't surprise me at all. Did it you?
No, not at all. Especially when you think about how pro the Republicans were to stall the aid package for Ukraine. Well, now we know why. And then all of the propaganda. I'm old enough to remember when the Republican Party was strong national security. That's what their big platform was. And to see how easily and morally bankrupt these people are, that they're willing to just go straight down the rabbit hole with propaganda from Russia. And it's unbelievable. It really is. Now, Trump, he's a useful idiot. He doesn't surprise me at all. But how the enablers in the Republican Party have fallen in line with all of the bad choices made by Trump and MAGA, it really is a show in cowardship, not leadership.
In stark contrast to all of this, you have Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and candidates up and down the ballot that get in front of people and speak about solutions for the American public. They speak about gun reform. They speak about the high cost of living. They speak about the minimum wage. And it is criminal and abhorrent that we do not pay people a livable wage. We're abroad right now in Europe, and there was a little thing that I read about tipping, and it was like tipping a small amount is kindly appreciated, though it only needs to be 1 or 2 euros, because people in this country earn a livable wage. That's civility, that's decency, that's pro-life. And these Republican politicians, the way they have for decades built to this moment, this climax with Trump, and they're ready for it. They are chomping at the bit to unleash Project 2025. All of these nefarious characters, they've been building for this moment. We are at this moment right now where we have a candidate who is smart, cares about the common good, cares about collectivism. And then you have on the other side, I read all these articles about all this infighting and grifting, and I mean, just low T parade over on Trump's side. It's unbelievable to me that they had a man at the RNC that got released from prison and went straight to the stage. And the whole thing of the RNC is we are the law and order party. I can't even, it's dumbfounding that so many people know that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. He's surrounded by felons. They trot out somebody who probably still had his ankle bracelet on at the RNC, but yet they're the party of law and order. And here's something that really has been driving me bananas lately. I am so tired of all of these white people in the United States of America that live in gated suburban communities that say, I'm just really worried about crime and immigration.
Right.
Give me a fucking break. The people I'm talking about that I know that say this don't live anywhere near a border, have never fallen prey to crime. And the propaganda machine, whether it's from Russia or from, deep delusional Republican mindset, their messaging and how they scare the shit out of average to low intelligence humans, they've been very successful at it. And it's just so dangerous because we live in a state, and we say this all the time, where we have a Republican supermajority. The people do not thrive in these states. We are ranked 50th for well-being for women. Out of all 50 states, Oklahoma is 50th. And we've had the same governor for 6 years, and he's not been able to move it up from 50 to, let's say, 48, because that's how bad Republican policies are. This guy he refused to take money from the federal government for school lunches, but now he's suing the federal government, the Supreme Court, because the federal government said since we had an abortion ban, they wouldn't send funds to help pregnancy centers. And now he's all upset about that. And it's just this charlatan, fake patriotism, scare the shit out of everybody when the rest of us are all out here living our lives. And how can government best work for us? No candidate is perfect. No political party is perfect. But when you listen item for item, one party talks about this weird planet that the United States of America is that I don't even recognize what they're talking about, that it's like some rat infested sewer. And I can tell you it's not. And then you have candidates who are talking about, we know some of you are struggling. We know some of you are doing well. Here are our proposals. And the contrast is just so stark.
I think the thing that drives me the craziest is when people are like, I don't like Trump morally, but I liked his policies. And I'm just like, you liked his policies? What policies? There aren't any. He added trillions of dollars to the deficit. It was a shit show. People were dying. I mean, it's just the mismanagement of COVID. Like, I can't wrap my head around it. And I don't agree with everything every Democrat says all the time, but I do believe the Democrats are moral, they're ethical, and I believe that Kamala Harris truly wants to put the country first. Her policies fall in line with that. And I do not believe that on the right side at all, full stop.
And I remember back when George W. Bush was president, and it just, the market crashed, and he did that trot out to the boat where it was like mission accomplished. And then it was like fake. No, JK, just kidding. And the Iraq war was a complete shit show. And the pride in being an American and American leadership, both domestically and internationally, was very, very, very abysmal. It was a very dark chapter, not as dark as what Trumpism is, but it was pretty dark. And then Obama comes, and we had 8 years of stability, not perfect, but you didn't have to worry about the president doing crazy shit or saying crazy shit or grifting or having his daughter work in the White House or two of his dipshit sons. And it's just, it's all weird. And so I'm hopeful, because Trump has been this horrific stain, and Biden won. And I remember the relief that I felt. But all through Biden's presidency, and Biden has been a very consequential president, and I think history will be very kind to him because he has gotten so much done because he knows Washington and he knows Congress and he knows how to make deals. But there has been this ubiquitous stain through all of Biden's presidency, and it's been Trump. And it's like, even though Biden's president, Trump still, is out there making an ass of himself. The news still covers him all the time. He's still saying stupid shit. Then he runs for president again. And everybody was like, oh no, we're over Trump. We're all chips in on DeSantis. Well, he face plants spectacularly. And then you've got Trump again. And if history is good and the electorate turns out and they don't cheat, I'm hopeful that MAGA and Trump get defeated, blistered, because we have to send a message that this style of governing and the way you treat people is not going to be tolerated in a free and fair society. Can you think all that crazy shit? Yes, it's a free country. But to try to get power and take away rights from people and impose your religious beliefs onto people and only give tax breaks to the ultra rich and not pay people a livable wage and not provide health care for poor people. But meanwhile, you take a victory lap because you're so Christian, and then you watch all these kids get shot in schools, and then all you offer are the thoughts and prayers. When you look at it historically, the Republican Party is excellent at messaging. Mm-hmm. They are horrible at governing. They're horrible with the economy. They are incredibly and inherently homophobic, sexist, and racist. And every single president that we've had in my lifetime that has been a Republican, you start with Reagan, he demeaned the poor and made it, we're the rich Republican Party and this worship of capitalism. Then you move over to George W. Bush, who he said he was a compassionate conservative, but they ran on this totally homophobic platform. And then you got Trump, and it's just like the worst of America all into one person. And I've never seen such a cult-like following of anybody. And I was all chips in on the Obama era, loved him, went to rallies, did all of this stuff. This shit with Trump is just staggering how crazy it is.
People are voting against their own self-interest to support Trump and denying facts and science. So it is a cult. I mean, I just don't think there's any way around that. It absolutely, the people that vote against their own self-interest in support of a fraudster, convicted felon, misogynist, racist pig, that's the only thing I know that they could possibly be, other than low IQ.
Yes, and the dangers for every American are one issue, and the far-reaching consequences of that for our international listeners, as you know, that if Trump is in his cozy relationship with Russia and other dictators, it is a very tragic state of affairs in the world, because he's the most easily manipulated person that could ever be in charge of anything. I mean, if we had him on this podcast right now, it would be so easy to get him to like you, because all you'd have to do was start complimenting him and give him just a little bit of praise. And that's all he wants to hear, because he is a malignant narcissist to his core. He is mentally ill, which leads me to my final conclusion that I don't know if half the country is mentally ill or just fucking dumb.
I think it's a toss-up. I think that Trump is so mentally ill, but I think the fact that he is so misogynistic, he's such a racist, he's so homophobic, I think that he enables those feelings to come out, and people are like, oh yeah, he's my guy because he believes white men rule the world. I think it's an ideology that they match on, the worst part of ourselves.
I agree. It's like continued white supremacy, and it triggers something on a real primal level for people to subconsciously uphold the patriarchy. Both women and men do this, and we are around these circles, and I see it, and he speaks to something inherent in them that they feel that they have to support. All right, this will conclude our IHIP news from abroad. Next week, we will be back in our studio with our beautiful blue wall.
Right.
And make sure you subscribe here and wherever you listen to your podcast, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
It's so